Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai's Linux News. And we are kicking things off today with one of the most wholesome stories we've seen in a while. As reported by NTFS, a 21-year-old Polish woman named Kamila has done something pretty remarkable. She tracked down and fixed a bug in the Enlightenment E16 window manager that had been lurking in the code for a full 20 years. That's right, this bug was old enough to drink. And the kicker? She wasn't even on a bug hunt. She just stumbled across it while doing something completely routine, spotted the issue, and made the fix. Just like that. NTFS highlighted this as exactly the kind of positive story the Linux community needs more of, a young developer making a quiet but meaningful contribution to software that millions of people rely on. Kamila, if you're watching, the community salutes you. This is what open source is all about. Anyone, anywhere, at any age, can dive in and make things better. Absolutely brilliant. Alright, gamers, this next one is for you. Phoronix is reporting that Valve and Codeweavers have dropped the first beta of Proton 11.0, and it's a big deal for Linux gaming. This new release is rebased against Wine 11.0, which means a whole new wave of Windows games are now playable through Steam Play. If you've been holding out on a title that just wouldn't cooperate on Linux, now might be a great time to try again. Proton has come an incredibly long way over the past few years, and each new major version keeps shrinking the gap between the Linux and Windows gaming experience. This is a beta release, so you'll want to keep your expectations measured. There could be some rough edges, but for those of you who like to live on the cutting edge, it's worth taking for a spin. Head into your Steam settings, opt into the Proton 11.0 beta, and let us know in the comments what's working for you now that wasn't before. The Linux gaming revolution is very much still in full swing. Now this is something that dual booters and anyone who regularly works with Windows drives will want to hear. According to Phoronix, a pull request has been submitted to introduce an entirely new, modern NTFS file system driver into Linux 7.1. We're talking about a fresh replacement for the existing NTFS 3 driver that was contributed by Paragon Software a few years back. A driver that, while functional, hasn't exactly been racing forward in terms of features or improvements. Linus Torvalds hasn't weighed in yet on whether he'll pull this in, so it's not a done deal. But the fact that it's been formally submitted and looks polished suggests there's real momentum here. For everyday users, a better NTFS driver means more reliable access to Windows partitions, smoother file transfers between operating systems, and hopefully fewer of those frustrating permission or corruption headaches. Keep your eyes peeled. If Linus gives this the green light, it could be one of the most practically useful additions to the kernel in a long time. Here's a story that really puts into perspective how fast the Linux graphics stack is moving. Phoronix ran fresh benchmarks on a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 13 running Intel's integrated SE2 graphics. The same machine they reviewed nearly 1 year ago, and the numbers are impressive. On Ubuntu 26.04 LTS, which is right around the corner, Intel's SE2 Lunar Lake integrated graphics are performing roughly 17% better than they were just 12 months ago. And this isn't new hardware, it's the exact same chip. That improvement comes purely from software, better drivers, kernel updates, Mesa improvements, and the overall maturation of the Intel graphics stack on Linux. This is fantastic news for anyone using a Lunar Lake laptop and wanting to get the most out of it without touching Windows. It also bodes really well for Ubuntu 26.04 as a daily driver for thin and light laptop users. If you've been on the fence about whether Linux is ready for your Intel-powered Ultrabook, this data is a pretty compelling argument. Let's do a quick distro update doubleheader, because there are 2 release timeline changes you should know about. First up, Phoronix reports that Fedora 44 will not be hitting shelves next week as originally planned. The April 21st target has been pushed back to April 28th due to some outstanding blocker bugs that the team needs to sort out first. It's only a week's delay, so nothing catastrophic. Fedora is just doing the responsible thing and not shipping until it's ready. Quality over speed, always appreciated. Now, the second one is a bigger shift. According to OMG Ubuntu, the Linux Mint project has officially confirmed it is moving to a longer development cycle. The result? Linux Mint 23, which will be based on Ubuntu 26.04 LTS, won't arrive until December 2026, basically Christmas. Project lead Clement Lefebvre explained that the extra time will allow the team to squash more bugs, polish the desktop experience, and roll out improvements like the new LMD-style installer with better secure boot and full disk encryption support. It's a longer wait, but if you're a Mint fan, it sounds like it's going to be worth it. Now here's a story that's stirring up some real debate in the open source community. It's FOSS is reporting that CAL.com, a popular open source scheduling platform, has decided to close up its source code. The reason they've given? They claim that AI tools are making it far too easy for bad actors to exploit open source software. Their argument is that AI can rapidly analyze public code, identify vulnerabilities, and weaponize them at scale faster than maintainers can respond. Now, that's a concern worth taking seriously, but a lot of folks in the community are pushing back hard, arguing that security through obscurity has never been a reliable strategy, and that closing the source punishes legitimate contributors and users more than it deters attackers. The silver lining here is that the original codebase isn't just disappearing. It's being forked and maintained under the name cal.diy, which will carry on under the MIT open source license. So if you've been using or building on cal.com, the open version lives on. But this story does raise some bigger questions about how the open source world adapts to the age of AI-powered threats. And finally, let's round up a bunch of the Linux 7.1 merge window action that's been lighting up Fornix this week, because there is a lot happening. First, a Valve developer has been landing changes to the RADV and ACO drivers for AMD's GFX 11.7 GPU target. That's the foundation for upcoming APUs branded as RDNA 4M. This is early groundwork for hardware that hasn't even launched yet, which shows just how proactive the open source driver community is. On the crypto side, Fornix reports that Linux 7.1 is enabling more optimizations by default in the libcrypto subsystem, which should translate to faster hashing and encryption performance across the board. Hardware monitoring also gets a nice boost. A new Lenovo fan driver is landing, along with expanded sensor support for more ASUS motherboards, so better temperature and voltage readings out of the box. And on the architecture side, Fornix notes that Linux 7.1 is beginning to strip out driver code for Russia's Baikal CPUs, hardware that's been effectively abandoned following sanctions and the manufacturer's bankruptcy. It's a necessary cleanup. The kernel merge window is always a whirlwind, and 7.1 is shaping up to be a seriously meaty release. That's a wrap for today's show.